Hello there everyone, this is me Ethan here and welcome back to another film review. It has been a minute since I last did my movie review since Avatar: The Way of Water, and as you all know I absolutely love that movie and I've now seen it 3 times, as you can tell by that Cinemark poster right there. Dang, I got that spot on right there above my Lego Avatar sets. But since then, there's not been a whole lot of new movies that have come out that I've been interested in until I heard about this little movie called Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I saw a lot of buzz on it on social media. I watched the opening scene on YouTube, kind of fell in love with it, and now I've seen the movie twice in theaters within the past 3 days this week. So it's pretty safe to say I love this movie. So first off, let's get into my history with the Shrek universe, I guess you could say, and then I'll get on with the review. So starting off, I do not have a big history hardly at all with the Shrek universe. I watched a decent bit of DreamWorks movies growing up. I loved How to Train Your Dragon, I loved Kung Fu Panda, and I loved Madagascar. Those are like my 3 favorite DreamWorks movies, and then I watched like a little bit of Megamind here or there, and that was about it. And I'd seen Shark Tale a couple times and didn't even like it as a kid. So DreamWorks has had their downfalls, their ups and downs. I still think they're a pretty solid movie company, and they make some fantastic villains, which we'll get into later. So I have a history with DreamWorks, but not so much with Shrek. I think I only ever watched maybe the first one a little bit whenever I was younger, at like my grandparents' house. So I don't have that much of a history with Shrek hardly at all. I knew who Shrek was. I'd seen Shrek everywhere. I just never got around to really watching the movies, maybe once or twice. So last weekend, I rewatched, or kind of sort of rewatched, the first 2 movies. They were basically brand new watches for me since it had been so long. I remembered very little from the Shrek movies, and both of them are really solid movies. Right now they're sitting at an 8 out of 10. I may have to rewatch those again to solidify my opinion, since it's only been really one time watching it. But I am excited to hopefully watch Shrek 3 and 4 at some point, and the first Puss in Boots. But that weekend I wanted to make sure that I had at least had some knowledge on the Shrek universe as well as Puss in Boots himself in Shrek 2 before I went in to see Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And on Monday I saw it and I was simply blown away by it. And then I went to go see it a second time, and as you can tell, I got this really cool kids cup. I just had to get it. I love the movie so much. It comes with a cool Puss in Boots action figure, and it's got the 2 main characters and the logo on the back. It's like a nice small coffee cup basically, but pretty cool cup there. I just had to get it because I love the movie so much. So let's get into what I enjoyed. First off, with the characters. I thought the characters were all really well thought out here and really well written. I thought Puss in Boots himself was a fantastic protagonist, and they actually gave him a full character arc in an hour and a half, or like an hour and 40. It was a very short movie, but in like an hour and 40 minutes, he got a full character arc. And his main story in this movie is him learning how to not run away from death and live his life to the fullest, which you always hear the live your life to the fullest messages in a lot of kids movies and a lot of animated movies these days. But this one's about not running away from death and not letting fear and anxiety consume you. And somehow, some way, they pulled it off where it was a really compelling story arc for a cat that wears boots. And I was truly blown away by it. I actually couldn't believe that this was coming from DreamWorks, because as much as the Kung Fu Panda movies and the How to Train Your Dragon movies, I loved all of those. This movie was like existential at points, and I actually felt the emotional beats that were happening as they were happening, which does not happen very often with the DreamWorks movies, at least from my experience. I think How to Train Your Dragon's fairly emotional, Kung Fu Panda not so much, Madagascar hardly at all. But Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, oh my gosh, I felt every single emotional moment, and I knew what the characters were going through, and I was completely caught off guard by it. It was Pixar, the Pixar Renaissance levels of good. Back whenever Pixar was in their heyday, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish could totally have been tossed in there, and I would have said, yeah, that's a Pixar movie outside the gorgeous newer style of animation. I'd say, yeah, that's on the same level as those movies. I'd say it's on the same level as Ratatouille or Toy Story 2 or Up or WALL-E. I'd say it's on the same level as the great stuff that Pixar used to make. Moving on to the villains, because I just have to talk about them. They're one of the highlights of this movie. First up, pretty much the main villain is Death. Just literally Death. He's personified by this giant white wolf with a cloak and the sort of, are they scythes or daggers or whatever? I can't remember what they're called. but he's got like these glowing red beady eyes, and oh my gosh, he's one of the scariest movies I've ever. He's one of the scariest villains I've ever seen in an animated movie. I almost messed up the wording there. He is one of the scariest villains I've ever seen in an animated movie. Like he's up there with Tai Lung and Lord Shen from the Kung Fu Panda series. Like genuinely an intimidating threat. Whenever he's first introduced, there's a little bit of blood in a PG movie, and from that point on, I was like, okay, yep, this guy's a threat. This guy's legit. This is a true villain in an animated movie marketed towards kids. Bravo. He's so cool, and I absolutely love his design. All of his fight scenes are amazing. The line delivery's top notch too. Perfectly creepy. His whistle that you hear throughout. Oh, just a perfect villain considering Puss's current state where he's on the last life out of his 9, which is also a very fun concept. You literally have death running after him around every corner, and it's such a fun and really, really dope concept. All I have to say to Pixar and Disney and Illumination and all of these movie studios, make your villains intimidating. Make us scared. Make us feel feelings and emotions. That's, like I said before, I felt all the emotional beats throughout, and I felt nervous every time the villain was around, and that's something I can't say for a lot of modern animated movies. So to all those animation studios, do better. And now there are 2 other groups of villains. There's really 6 villains total, which is insane, but they're able to balance all of them very well. First up, we have Jack Horner, and he is voiced by John Mulaney. He kind of just sounds like the regular John Mulaney, where he just kind of talks like this the entire time. Nothing too new from him, but I found his villain to be pretty funny at times and very dark. Like he actually kills people in this movie. Like he's also a threat, but he is more comedic than Death is. And I thought he was a very fun character. I never heard of the nursery rhyme of little Jack Horner sitting in the corner eating a Horner pie. I never heard of that. It must be an older one, but they kind of joke about how more people know like Pinocchio and all these other fairy tale characters more than him, and that's kind of where he stems his jealousy and his hatred, and I found that to be pretty fun considering I had no clue who Jack Horner was. And then there's Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and it's actually a really funny family because they're like this crime syndicate, and it's actually a really funny and slightly moving story about found family. It's not quite as strong as all the other emotional moments, but it's pretty well done, and actually they get so many funny moments. So many funny moments. I don't want to spoil anything if you go into it blind, and if you want to get all the humor and just get a blind reaction to it, go ahead. I'm not going to ruin that for you, but oh my gosh. They're one of the funniest parts of the movie, in my opinion, and they were fantastic. So Jack Horner and Goldilocks and the Three Bears, both pretty well done. Death definitely stands out, but those two are the more comedic villains that both have somewhat a little bit of a story to them, but Death is the best villain out of the 3 different factions of villains that Puss has to go against. Kitty Softballs returns from the first movie. I had no clue who she was because I haven't seen the first Puss in Boots movie, but she was pretty good. I thought the romance at first was kind of forced, and I wasn't really feeling it, but once they give the backstory to their relationship, oh my gosh. I was not expecting it in a kids movie, and I was fully on board with it, and I think it worked, and they didn't overdo it by the end, which I appreciated. And finally, we have Perito or Perro the dog. Those are the only 2 names that Puss and Kitty give him, and oh my gosh, I thought he was going to be the most annoying, funny / cute side character that you see in all the animated movies nowadays. But man, he was on the same level as like Donkey, I'd say, maybe even better. Like he genuinely actually helps out our main characters, and he's not just an idiot who's cute. Like he actually progresses the story, and I won't go too much into detail, but he wants to be a therapy dog once he gets older, and he sort of becomes a therapy dog for Puss in Boots throughout because he has this major anxiety over death. And there's one scene in particular, and if you've watched it, you know what I'm saying, but it's a powerful scene. It's simplistic, but it is so powerful, and I got the most emotional connection to him. He was hilarious throughout. The voice performance was great, and overall, I loved Perito. He was a fantastic comedic relief that did more than just the comedic relief stuff that you expect. Now, the plot is extremely generic in the best way possible, in it that it's pretty much the regular MacGuffin story where anybody can have any wish they want. So it's sort of like the magic wishing well or the genie's magic bottle that only grants one wish. And for Puss, it's the sort of fountain of youth for him so he can get back his lives. It's very generic, but what makes it so fun is all the character interactions and how they all clash together. Somehow there are 6 villains and 3 protagonists. All of them have a reason to get this wishing star. 9 characters all have a reason to get a wishing star, sort of. And yet somehow it's all balanced just because they clash together so well and have so many funny moments in an otherwise generic plot. And speaking of how they interact, that includes the action scenes, which brings me to the action and animation seg point. Oh my goodness, the animation is incredible. I know many people have made the comparison to Into the Spider-Verse. I think we should drop the comparisons to Into the Spider-Verse because while this is similar where it is 3D animation, but they use different shading, like in Spider-Verse they use the comic style. Here they use like a paint stroke style. It looks like it's almost straight out of a fairy tale book, which is just genius. But I really wish we'd drop the Spider-Verse comparisons because while it is similar, it still is different. It's not the exact same. But regardless, the fight scenes are absolutely amazing. I'm going to link up top the opening scene. That action scene with the rock monster is just glorious. The choreography is amazing, and I love the animation and how it drops its frame rates every now and then. And whenever you see the frame rate drop, you know it's going to go down. It's fantastic. It is beautiful. There are so many great colors. And I beg you, I know this is available on digital and it's going to very soon be available on Blu-ray and 4K and all the different formats. Go see this in a theater while it's still available because it looks gorgeous on the big screen. I loved it. All I gotta say is that if Shrek 5 is animated like this or Kung Fu Panda 4, which has already been announced, I'm fully on board with this animation style. I think it looks glorious. Overall, I absolutely loved Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish. If you can't tell already, because I bought a cup for it. I forgot to mention towards the middle of the review some of the Lego portion where I mentioned like whether or not the Lego sets are accurate or if there should have been Lego sets. There should have been Lego sets for this movie. There absolutely should have been. I don't know what Lego was thinking. They partnered with DreamWorks before for Trolls, but they didn't for this. This would have been the perfect opportunity to even release Shrek sets. I know Shrek 5 has been in development forever, I'm pretty sure. So maybe they'll release them in the future, but man, I would have loved Puss in Boots minifigure and a Death minifigure. That would have been awesome, but no. Anyways, overall, I give Puss in Boots The Last Wish a 10 out of 10. I'm not even joking. Like, I can't really find any issues with it. It's an animated movie that is somehow super mature, super emotional, super epic. All the positive words that I can describe for an animated movie. It's for Puss in Boots The Last Wish. I'd say it's only slightly over Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and I still appreciate all the effort that went into that. But if I were to choose which one to rewatch, I'd choose to rewatch Puss in Boots The Last Wish. It is a blast from start to finish, has all the emotional beats you'd want, all that good old Shrek humor that you love and know. And man, I loved it. So what did you think about Puss in Boots The Last Wish? Have you seen it? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to have a full discussion about it. And if you haven't seen it, go see it in theaters before it goes away because it deserves all the support. It's one of the best animated movies in years, I'd say probably since Into the Spider-Verse, and it knocked Pixar and Disney out of the park for 2022. So if you all enjoyed this review and if you all enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye and have a great day.